Hello everyone and welcome back to LewisFiction and welcome to the Spectacular Spider-Man College Trilogy Part 2. This is KRAVEN'S Last Hunt. If you have not seen the first part, The Death of Jean DeWolf, or if you haven't seen any of the seasons beforehand, I'd recommend you go back and watch them before you watch this, or else this will make no sense to you. But with that being said, let's get straight into this. In the dim confines of his prison cell, time seemed to stretch endlessly for Sergei Kravenov, better known as Kraven the Hunter. Locked away for his past crimes, he had an ample opportunity to contemplate his actions and their consequences. But more than that, he had time to reflect on the man that he once was, and the man that he wanted to become. Since Kraven was put away during the events of Season 2, he had reformed. But not only that, he had been given a serum developed by Dr. Connors' new research after curing Max Dillon of his electro powers to turn him back into the man he used to be, Sergei Kravenov. Today was trial day, and Sergei was feeling confident. His sentence had already been reduced for good behavior and his willingness to comply. And after everything, Sergei was a free man. After leaving Rikers and making it back to the mainland New York, he took the smell in. Freedom, at last. Sergei would return home, the first flight back to Africa, where he would finally reunite with his wife, Calypso. But something wasn't right. Calypso wasn't happy to see him, not one bit. She would tell him that he had become someone else, that he had no self-respect or respect for her and their relationship. Sergei Kravenov had disowned their family with his actions, and she doesn't want to see him ever again. Sergei pleaded to her, telling her that he had changed, he had become a better man, but she wouldn't have it, as she told him to leave. Sergei left, broken and distraught. Everything he'd been building to, everything he'd worked for in prison, had been thrown back in his face by someone that didn't even want him anymore. Sergei was angry, furious even, but he had nowhere to eject the anger, no one to point it at other than himself. And in his own denial, Sergei turned to the only other man who had a hand in making his life a living hell: Spider-Man. If Calypso won't have him back, there is only one more purpose for Sergei Kravenov: the defeat of Spider-Man. Determined to end his legacy on a note of triumph, he must prove his worth. He must prove that he is the superior warrior, the superior hunter, once and for all. And with that, it brings us to the start of the film. Meanwhile, in a corner of Broadway, New York City, Mary Jane Watson finds herself on the cusp of fame. It's 1 year after the events of the last film, and we cut to MJ as she's performing on stage in front of a live theatre audience. She is on her second year of college, but will do acting work on the side. Her reputation as an actress is forever growing, and it's clear to us at the beginning of this film that she is making really positive inroads on where she wants to be and where she wants to take her career. The show would end, and it would be her best performance yet. As the curtains would draw to a close, she would meet backstage with her co-stars. They would all get talking about their personal lives. One co-star would go on to say how her and her boyfriend are saving up for a mortgage, and another co-star would say that him and his fiancée just started renting an apartment together in Midtown. As MJ sits quietly in the corner, listening into everyone else, they eventually turn to her and ask her about her and Peter, as they've known and grown to like MJ over the last few months. MJ will be sheepish and will quiver away in the corner as she's got nothing to add. Peter is just a photographer. He's not at college. Heck, he can barely even pay for his own rent. MJ knows why, however, she feels a sense of jealousy rise over her. All of these people she works with are starting to move on in life. They're starting to settle down and be the people that they set out to be, the people that they wanted to be from a very young age. But MJ is stuck. She loves Peter more than anything in the world, but she'll start to question herself. When will it be time for her and Peter to move in? And if so, could Peter even afford it? He doesn't have any qualifications and he doesn't even go to college. It's not even like he'd have a tuition fee or anything. She has a life and a career, and it's not waiting up for anyone, especially Peter. She meets with Peter after the show, as Peter waits with a few roses outside the stage door. They kiss, and Peter says it was amazing, saying that it was her best performance yet. MJ thanks him, but Peter can sense something's wrong. MJ had always been a closed-off individual, but ever since her and Peter got to know each other through the seasons prior, she had come out of her shell to him and had become the person that she'd always wanted to be. But at this moment in time, she was more feeling like that closed-off person again. Peter would question her, but MJ would kinda blow it off as nothing. But Peter insists. MJ doesn't know how to put it, and panickingly tells Peter that he needs to go to college, not knowing what to say to him, and not knowing how to regulate her emotions properly. Peter says that he doesn't really have time for college, and she knows that. With great power comes great responsibility. MJ will cut him off and say that she knows, but he needs to at some point. She will say that, what are you going to do, just be a photographer for the rest of your life? And Peter will be taken back by this. As the audience, we know this is not what MJ intended to come across, but Peter will respond by saying that he's happy for her and everything, but just because he isn't becoming some famous actress doesn't mean what he does as a career is a dead end. MJ will say that she knows that, but he can barely afford the apartment that he lives in now, and will ask Peter to think about the future. But with Peter still caught up in the previous part of the conversation, he will say that he's trying his best. This will slightly annoy Peter. The rest of the night will turn sour because of this, and they will both return home. MJ's friends moving forward in life is making her feel left behind, but she doesn't know how or what to say to Peter. She blew it, she'd think to herself as she'd return home that night. We cut to Sergei Kravenov as he lands back in New York. However, if he is to hunt for Spider-Man, he can't be seen out on the streets, especially after his early release. So he decides on the perfect disguise. He holds out a box in front of him, and he pulls out a variation of the symbiote Spider-Man suit. Of course, just made of cloth. He thinks to himself that if word gets out that another Spider-Man is floating about New York, this is sure to get his attention, and then the hunt can finally begin. We cut to Peter, who is dropping off photos for Robbie at Frontline. However, before Peter could leave, Robbie interjects, stating that he's heard reports that Venom is back in town. Maybe Peter could snatch some photos of him. Robbie will tell Peter that he's heard Venom's gone good now, so he must mean well. Peter is confused. Venom operates in San Francisco. Why would he be back in New York? Peter takes what Robbie said on board and leaves. Spider-Man swings through the city when he gets a text. He opens his phone and sees it's from MJ. She asks if they could hang out tonight at her college dorm, and Peter narrates to himself saying that he hopes he wasn't too harsh on her earlier. Maybe MJ is right. Peter will think to himself. Is he really going to just swing aimlessly, take photos, kick some supervillain's butt, and then make a few dollars just to barely survive in an apartment that is definitely falling to pieces? He doesn't think so, and when you think about it like that, it does kind of seem like MJ was onto something. But before he could reply to a message and agree, his spider senses go off sharply. Spider-Man dodges out of the way of a spearing laser beam that cracks the wall beside him. Spider-Man looks around and sees a man on top of a building opposite him, with a symbiote Spider-Man costume on. Peter thinks to himself that this can't be good. But one thing's for sure, that's not Venom, and for two reasons. Number one, like mentioned earlier, Venom has gone good, and he wouldn't attack Peter like that. And two, Venom never sets Peter's spider sense off. Spider-Man engages the man, asking who he is. However, the man doesn't respond and begins to fight Spider-Man. The man is brutal and quick. Despite Peter being confused, he senses some form of familiarity within the fight. It's like he's fought this person before. However, before Peter could come to any conclusion, the man shoots another beam at Peter, shocking him and knocking him out. Awakening in a place that he did not recognize, Peter touches his face to realize he still has his mask on. Whoever it was wasn't interested in him, that's for sure. He slowly turned around and looked up to see a shadowy figure at the other end of the room. His vision blurred. He couldn't quite make out what was going on. He tried to web the man, but then Peter found himself stripped of his web shooters, and his eyes came more into focus. He was face to face with an old foe, Kraven the Hunter. Peter just about utters his name, before asking what the heck is all of this. The Hunter revealed his grand plan, a final showdown to determine the true warrior between them. Peter pleads, saying this is not necessary. Kraven will say no weapons, no web shooters, just a fight, like two grown men. Can't they just end all of this and talk it out like men, says Peter? Sergei will say that real men don't talk. Real men fight to decide. Despite Spider-Man's pleas, Kraven's obsession with proving himself leads to a brutal confrontation between the two. Peter doesn't even know where he is, but during the battle he catches glimpses of the outside world. It's nighttime, lightning crashes as thunder rages in the background. It doesn't look like New York. Where could he possibly be? However, Peter during this time was also trying to break through to Kraven, to try and get him to stop fighting, but Sergei's only purpose bled through into his rage and his anger. And before you knew it, Kraven had come out on top, battering Spider-Man down once and for all, using all of his might. He is victorious, as we get a shot of Kraven ominously hovering over Spider-Man's limp body. We cut to MJ, who sits in her college dorm staring at the message that she sent to Peter all of those hours ago. It is currently the evening and she still had no response. She'll blame herself, saying that she should have never brought Peter's situation up like that. That's probably the reason he's ignoring her. However, her overthinking has to wait, as one of her flatmates, who also happens to be a co-star of hers that we saw at the beginning of the movie, will walk past and see MJ sulking on her bed through the crack of the door. She will knock and will open the door slowly, asking if MJ is okay. MJ will say that she is, and her friend will say that she clearly isn't. As they sit on the bed together, her friend manages to get MJ talking. This scene will be intertwined as we cut back and forth between them and Sergei digging a hole in the ground. MJ will say that she's afraid that she's pushed Peter away. when all that she wants is for them to get more serious. She's thinking of the future, and she's afraid that what Peter is doing is keeping them in the past. Her friend will tell her that she just has to be honest with him. Tell him what you really, really want. And as her friend pats MJ on the shoulder and walks out of the room, Sergey finally finished the hole as he drops Spider-Man to the bottom of it and covers it up as the click of the door shuts behind MJ. We fade back in. It's dark. It's cold. It's lonely. Spider-Man finds himself underground, buried alive. Peter panics for a second before realizing that if he panics, it'll just make things worse. He takes a deep breath as he sees crumbs of soil fall from the roof. He's buried, he'll think to himself. Spider-Man will say this is it. Even with the proportionate strength of a spider, how the heck will he get out of this? The soil on top of him is already too heavy, not considering the fact that he's at an angle where he can't even use his full force of brute strength. Spider-Man will bash on the ceiling to no avail. Peter will say to himself that he's going to run out of oxygen soon, so he's just got to stay calm. And that's when he gets a call. His phone. It's still in his pocket. Peter reaches for it to see if he can contact someone, but it falls out, just out of arm's reach. And without any web shooters, Peter can't even web it towards himself either. However, the way it fell, the cracked face of the phone faces to Peter so he could see exactly who it was. It was MJ. And as Peter can't quite reach the phone to answer, it rings out. But then it rings again. And once again, it goes to answer phone. Peter sheds a tear and says that he's sorry under his breath. We cut to MJ's perspective. As the phone rings out, it goes to voicemail, and she decides to speak her mind. Peter won't answer the phone, but that won't stop her. That won't stop MJ being honest. She says that she knows he's probably not taking her calls because of what she said, but she just wanted to say that she was sorry. But that's not what her intention was. And just like the scene prior, MJ narrates over the top as we cut back and forth between the two, as Peter realizes, wait a minute, he still has signal. He can't be that far underground. And with another sudden burst of energy, he starts to bash the coffin. MJ continues narrating. She says that she's going to be honest. They're not getting any younger and careers are moving forward, and they're adults now. Every day she gets ever closer to finishing college and being out in the real world. MJ begins to beat around the bush, when finally she comes out with it. She'll ask Peter if he wants to move in with her. She's been thinking about it for a while, and she thinks it's time. She says please to call her back, and that she loves him. And on that line, Peter, not holding back any longer, sends a crackling punch through the wooden coffin, bursts into the soil above, and before you knew it, rose Spider-Man from the dead. You can't defeat him that easily. As Spider-Man made his way back across to the house, he scoped out his surroundings. He's in upstate New York, not far from home. This must be where Kraven was hiding, he'll think to himself. We cut to Kraven inside the house, meditating with half a smirk on his face. His mission complete, his purpose fulfilled. He is the ultimate hunter. And the anger, rage, and guilt that came over him from the rejection of his ex-wife Calypso had suddenly passed due to the validation that Spider-Man's defeat gave his ego. However, with a gritted voice, Spider-Man slammed through the back door, limped into the hallway, and shouted his name. Kraven's smile suddenly transformed back into one of sadness and remorse. Sergey stands up, not ready for battle this time, not even tempted to battle. He looks at Spider-Man as he stands at the other end of the corridor and says one thing: congratulations. Spider-Man will ask Sergey what kind of sick and twisted game is he playing. Sergey tells Spider-Man about everything that led up to this moment. How their battle was the only thing that meant anything to him in this moment. And clearly, Spider-Man is the more fierce warrior, far superior to Sergey Kravenov. Peter tells Sergey that he needs help. Sergey says that he's content now. He has his answer. As he pulls out a vial of serum, Peter asks, what is that? Sergey says something that will complete him. Peter's spider sense goes nuts as Sergey injects himself with it. Peter rushes over to try and stop him, but it's too late. Spider-Man holds him by the collar and screams at him, what have you done? And that's when Sergey tells Spider-Man thank you, as his arms and his legs go limp, and his entire body ascends. Spider-Man holds Sergey Kravenov in his arms for one final time. Spider-Man takes his mask off and closes his eyes. We see the raw emotion and regret in Peter's face. He couldn't do anything to save him. Spider-Man returns back to Manhattan as he catches back up with MJ. They hug and kiss and reunite. In the aftermath, Peter and MJ found solace in each other's arms, a testament to their love for each other. MJ will ask Peter the all-important question, should they move in together? Peter says yeah, he'd love to, and agrees that they are at that stage in their relationship. She's right, they've been together for a while now and it's time. Peter also says that he's been thinking of applying to college. He says that he thought about what she said and she's right. Peter doesn't want to be in a dead-end job for the rest of his life, so he's applying at ESU to do physics. And that way him and MJ can put their student finance and tuition fees together to rent themselves a small apartment near the campus. This will be a big step in their lives. There's no Aunt May. There's no Aunt Anna Watson. There's no one to guide them but them two as they take the next step in their relationship. All's well that ends well for our loving couple as we come to the end of the main story. However, something else is on the horizon. We will cut to a post-credit scene which will be following a man known as Dr. Jonathan On, experimenting with portal technology. After his life's work, he's finally done it. He's finally made it work. And with that little tease, we come to the end of the film. Thank you very much for watching Spectacular Spider-Man and Kraven's Last Hunt. If you did enjoy, make sure to leave a like on the video. Make sure to subscribe if you are new around here. And also, you're not going to want to miss the next installment in the Spectacular Spider-Man fanfiction series. It will be the finale of the entire series as a whole, which will be the College Trilogy Part 3. And I can give you the title. It's going to be called Spectacular Spider-Man and the Curse of the Spot. That's right, ladies and gentlemen. The Spot will be the villain and the final antagonist of the entire series as a whole. It's going to be a movie dedicated to Peter and his life, following and reminiscing on events that have happened throughout the series thus far. You are not going to want to miss it. It comes out next Sunday. Thank you for watching. I'll catch you guys all in the next one. Take care and peace.